Have you ever noticed how the same pattern keeps showing up in your relationships? No matter how much the stories or the people change, your behavior, your choices, the way you connect, it all feels familiar. Almost like you keep attracting the same kind of person, just with a different face. That's not a coincidence. The way you show up in relationships was shaped long ago in childhood through something called attachment theory. This idea came from psychologist John Bowlby, who noticed that children who didn't receive consistent care often struggled with trust, safety, and emotional connection later in life. Together with his colleague Mary Ainsworth, he studied how infants reacted when separated from their mothers, and discovered something powerful. Not all children bond in the same way. From that research, the concept of attachment was born, the idea that how a child connects to their caregiver shapes how they seek, give, and receive love as adults. When a child feels safe, they explore the world with confidence. But when that sense of safety or acceptance isn't there, they develop emotional survival strategies. And over time, those strategies turn into patterns, what we now call attachment styles. These styles deeply shape how we relate to others as adults, how we love, how we connect, and how we react to closeness or distance. The first attachment style is the one we all, deep down, long for, the secure attachment. It's the healthiest way to connect. It develops when, as children, we grow up with a caregiver who's steady, available, and emotionally attuned, a parent who consistently responds to our needs and makes us feel seen, accepted, and understood. Through that experience, we learn something fundamental, that when we reach out, someone will be there, that we're worthy of love, and that the world is a safe enough place to explore. This inner sense of security allows us to soothe ourselves, to trust, and to connect without fear. As adults, people with a secure attachment feel comfortable with both closeness and independence. They don't play games, they're not afraid to be vulnerable, and they give and receive love with honesty and ease. You can recognize this kind of person almost instantly. They express their needs openly, handle conflict calmly, forgive easily, and respect both their own boundaries and their partners. They communicate clearly, show care without control, and see intimacy and sexuality as natural parts of the same emotional bond. A securely attached person has learned to love without fear, to trust without dependency, and to connect deeply while staying grounded in their own autonomy and inner balance. But when early in life, that bond with our caregiver isn't secure, we start searching for that sense of safety elsewhere, in our partners, our friends, even our co-workers. We unconsciously look for someone to reassure us, to make us feel safe. And that's where anxiety, dependency, and the need for control begin to grow. This is how we learn to love with anxiety, and this pattern is called the anxious attachment. An anxious attachment develops when, in childhood, the care we received wasn't consistent. Sometimes there was love and responsiveness, other times, distance or indifference. A child might be held and comforted one day, and the next hear things like, "Don't be so sensitive," or "You're overreacting." So they grow up in uncertainty, never quite sure when it's safe to express how they feel and when it's not. Over time, that turns into a confusing belief. Sometimes I'm loved, sometimes I'm not. And so, the person learns to constantly chase the love and attention they once missed. As adults, love becomes intertwined with the fear of abandonment. The anxious partner needs reassurance to feel loved. When the other person pulls away, panic sets in, and they cling tighter, trying to keep the relationship alive. But the more they hold on, the more the other person tends to pull away, and the fear they were trying to avoid comes true all over again. People with an anxious attachment style feel emotions deeply. A delayed text, a change in tone, even a small shift in someone's behavior can trigger waves of insecurity. They're always trying to get closer, even when that closeness creates tension or conflict. And when a relationship ends, they feel a profound loss, not just of the person, but of the belief that they are worthy of love. When they fear losing someone, they often activate unconscious strategies to keep them close. For example, expressing physical symptoms or stress to get care, complaining or feeling guilty to gain attention, showing vulnerability or helplessness to elicit support, becoming jealous or possessive out of fear of being left behind. But an anxious attachment doesn't mean weakness. It simply means that at some point we learned that love wasn't guaranteed. With therapy, self-awareness, and relationships that feel truly safe, we can transform that anxiety into trust, and that constant need for reassurance into a calm, grounded kind of love. On the other side, there's the kind of person who seems independent, who can't stand to show need, and who often pulls away just when a relationship starts to get close. This is the avoidant attachment. An avoidant attachment develops when, as children, we learned that emotional closeness wasn't safe. Maybe our caregivers were physically present, but emotionally distant. They might have met our practical needs, but not our emotional ones. A child might fall and get hurt, and instead of a hug, they hear, "Get up, you're fine." Or when they express sadness or fear, they're told, "Stop crying, don't be dramatic," or "You're too sensitive." Through these moments, the child learns that vulnerability isn't welcome, that showing need means being weak. So to protect themselves, they start shutting down their emotions and relying only on their own strength. They begin to believe, if I don't need anyone, I can't get hurt. And that's how the avoidant attachment is born, as an unconscious defense against disappointment and pain. In adulthood, avoidant individuals place a high value on independence. They feel uncomfortable with too much closeness and often pull away when intimacy deepens. After moments of tenderness or connection, they might suddenly feel the urge to withdraw, to get some space and regain a sense of control. On the surface, they appear calm and self-sufficient, but underneath there's fear. A fear that if they let their guard down, they'll get hurt again. For them, love can feel like a loss of freedom, or a setup for inevitable disappointment. In everyday life, avoidant people often choose silence over expression. They avoid commitment because intimacy feels suffocating. They keep an emotional distance to feel safe, focus on their partner's flaws as a way to detach, and struggle to fully trust. For them, closeness feels threatening, like something that could take away their independence or expose old wounds. But an avoidant attachment doesn't mean a lack of emotion. It's a protective mechanism, a way to stay in control in a world where, once, they felt powerless. With therapy, self-awareness, and relationships with emotionally available people, the avoidant person can learn that closeness doesn't mean dependence, and that vulnerability isn't weakness, but one of the deepest forms of strength. And finally, there's the type of person who carries both worlds within them, the fear of abandonment and the fear of closeness. The most conflicted yet also the most vulnerable of all. This is the disorganized attachment. It's perhaps the most complex of all attachment styles. It combines elements of both the anxious and the avoidant patterns, creating a constant inner contradiction. One moment, craving deep connection, and the next, running from it. It's as if they don't know which side of themselves to trust. In childhood, this often begins with an experience where love and fear coexist. The person who was supposed to provide safety was also a source of pain or insecurity. Maybe a parent struggled with mental illness, depression, or addiction, physically present, yet emotionally unpredictable or even frightening. A child might be hugged one day and yelled at or rejected the next. They never know whether it's safe to reach out or if they'll get hurt. They learn that love can change its face in an instant, that what warms you can also wound you. That confusion grows into a constant internal battle, the pull between wanting connection and fearing intimacy. People with a disorganized attachment long for love, but they're terrified of it. They seek closeness, but when they finally get it, they panic and pull away. Sometimes they act anxious, needing reassurance and closeness. Other times, avoidant, keeping their distance to feel safe again. The fear runs so deep that they may struggle to even enter relationships, or unconsciously sabotage the very connections they desire. Not because they don't love, but because intimacy reminds them of the pain that love once caused. To manage this inner chaos, they often overreact, seeing danger where there is none, get confused, act impulsively, and find it hard to calm down. Withdraw after moments of closeness to protect themselves. Turn to substances, food, sex, or risky behaviors in an attempt to quiet the storm inside. Become jealous or controlling, because even a hint of distance triggers panic. In truth, they're not avoiding the other person. They're avoiding their own fear, the fear of abandonment, rejection, and vulnerability. A disorganized attachment is like an emotional pendulum, swinging between "I want to be close to you" and "I'm afraid to let you close." It isn't weakness. It's a survival mechanism, a way to protect a child who was both loved and hurt by the same person. With time, therapy, and relationships built on consistency and emotional safety, that fear can begin to soften. And slowly, the person who once ran to survive learns that there is love that doesn't hurt, a love that can finally, truly stay. Are enough, just as you are. Your attachment style isn't a label, it's a mirror, showing you how you learned to love, not how you're destined to love forever, because you can learn safety again, through understanding, through connection, through love, beginning first, with yourself. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing for more videos like this one.